preparing to fast forward. Fast forwarding, sir. Fast forwarding. I'm going to switch us over to science and tech. Do it, Kilo. So let's go over on the next space flight, dude. Let's see. So this is a Starlink. This is Starlink Group 2.5. This is should be launching about 12 past the hour. So we're inside of 10 minutes here. And let's see. What Falcon do we have here? This is Falcon 1063. Falcon 9 first stage 1063. This is the booster's 9th mission. And it's going to land on a drone ship. Of course, I Still Love You. That's going to be out in the Pacific. It's a 113-day turnaround from 1063's last mission. And it is the 183rd Falcon 9 recovery attempt. Mission details. So we got a Starlink Group 2.5, so it's just Starlink satellites. There's 51 on board going to low Earth orbit. Probably, I mean, these are polar Starlinks, so they're going... launching due south, so 90 degrees inclined. I order you, stop! We can't stop. It's too dangerous. We got to slow down first. So we're going out of Slick 4E at Vandenberg. So this is Vandenberg Space Force Base in Lompoc, California. This is the 23rd launch attempt of 2023 out of anybody. SpaceX's 215th mission. Their 11th mission of 2023. It's crazy. We're in mid-February. They've already launched 11 times. That's absurd. It's Falcon 9's 205th mission and the 10th Falcon 9 mission this year.
Go at throttle up.
11 Falcon 9. Hey, some space. Is that still an attempt? Sure. I order you. Stop. Krasnu. What's up, buddy? We're getting awfully close to the T0 time. They didn't push it back at all, did they, fellas? Greetings, Starfighter. You've been recruited by the Star League to defend the frontier against Zur and the Kodan Armada.
Pad is clear.
10, 9, 8,
Launch auto sequence has started.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Go for launch.
Working and lurking, Nico. Thanks, buddy.
Go at throttle up.
Nico, you hyped for KSV2? I'm like...
Separation confirmed.
I don't think so, drummer.
Landing legs have deployed. And Falcon 9 has landed.
Alright, here we go. Oh, pretty.
Hello everyone, and happy Friday. My name is Zachary Lupin, and I'm an avionics reliability engineer here at SpaceX. I'll be your host for today's Starlink mission, which marks SpaceX's 11th launch of the year and 210th mission to date. For those of you following the Starlink program, Starlink is now available in 47 countries and 59 markets around the world. And today we are sending another 51 Starlink satellites to orbit. Currently, weather and range are both green for launch, and we are proceeding with a T0 time of 11:12 a.m. Pacific time from Vandenberg Space Force Base at Pad 4 East. The teams are currently tracking no issues with the vehicle or spacecraft. We should see those strong back arms opening up here shortly. And there you can see them going.
Liquidator, yeah, I went through 2-month resub. Thanks, buddy.
Coming up next at T-3 minutes, we should hear that Stage 1 has completed liquid oxygen loading.
Some rule of third stuff going on there. You see that the stage was like on the right third of the screen?
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Sitting adjacent to the Falcon 9 rocket is
There
the
you go,
Transporter Erector, or
Nick.
TE, which is the truss
23
structure
months.
next to the rocket that is used for rollout and to route propellants and electrical
Dude,
power to the vehicle
that
in
is a
preparation for
beautiful
launch.
shot. That's like some desktop background stuff. Go back to that. SpaceX man, go back, or woman, go back to that.
The weather at Vandenberg Space Force Station is currently looking pretty darn clear today.
Yeah, see that out there? Anybody know what that is? I know what that is. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's some nice framing on that close-in shot. Really, really, really crisp.
Stage 1, lock flow complete.
Yeah, with the horizon camera as well.
At T-3 minutes, the Falcon 9
You think they're doing that on purpose? They're absolutely doing that on purpose.
second stage.
It's not
in
RTLS, it's a
about
drone ship
52
landing.
seconds from now.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, see that out there? Anybody know what that is? It's not the drone ship. No.
As a reminder, the Falcon 9 rocket
Pretty sure
uses
that's
a
an oil
fuel,
rig.
RP-1, and an oxidizer, liquid oxygen.
It's a thing in the water. Bro, wow. Are you a wizard? There's all oil rigs along the coast here, guys. It's cool. You can see them at night. Yeah, Aqualex, exactly. Just little stuff like that makes a huge difference.
And you can just make out some of the white clouds forming on the body
Vandenberg,
of the
Jack.
rocket. This is because the booster is very cold as we slowly vent a little bit of liquid oxygen.
They haven't done RTLS on the West Coast. They've landed them out there before, Nico. It's just these Starlink missions, when you go to polar orbit, you need extra delta V. It takes more energy to get into a polar orbit than it takes more energy to get into a polar orbit than it does into an equatorial orbit or something near equatorial. The reason why is because when you launch polar, you're spinning on the globe going this way, right? And you're launching 90 degrees, you're launching due south, and that's 90 degrees off the direction of rotation of Earth. The rocket has to negate that imparted velocity at liftoff. So that ends up being like an extra, 200 to 300 meters a second delta V. Like it's not inconsequential. It's not a big deal, but it's not inconsequential either. So because they need that extra delta V to push these satellites into the polar orbit, they're doing drone ship landings.
Expensive parts of the rocket, which in turn drives down the cost of space access.
TE
Coming up
purge.
next, we should hear that Falcon 9 is in startup, which means
Okay, so what they did here, there are fuel lines that go up this truss structure, the transporter erector, right there. See those two lines? That's the fuel lines for the second stage. Fuel and oxidizer. I mean, they have to bring the oxygen with them because there's no oxygen up there. So when you see that, that's called the transporter erector purge. They basically pump nitrogen up the lines and they up the oxidizer line, and they get all of the liquid oxygen out of the pipes. The reason why is you don't want fuel and oxidizer in this thing when the rocket launch. It's about to get, in about 30 seconds, it's about to get pretty hot, like right here. Not here or here so much, but right here. And what happens is if you don't depress the line and purge it out, when it separates, it'll puke fuel and oxidizer onto the side of the rocket. And yeah, it'll catch on fire. You don't need the rocket on fire. This isn't a Delta. This isn't a Delta rocket. You don't want the side of the rocket on fire. You want the fire coming from the bottom.
3, 2,
Green flash.
1. Engines full power and liftoff of Starlink.
Right there.
Group 2-5.
You see it? Did you see it? It puked out a little bit. See it? Look, it caught on fire. See what I mean? That's why you do the TE purge. Did you see it? The umbilical separated and it puked blocks out and it caught on fire. Cool. I mean, not cool. Someone's probably going to have to fix that, but also, that's pretty cool. Beautiful shot. Beautiful shot.
At T plus 35 seconds, Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Vandenberg Space
Okay,
Launch
flight
Complex
azimuth
4 East
has
at
been
11:12
established. Roll
a.m.
program
Pacific
is
time.
complete. Vehicle now pitch.
Hour and telemetry nominal.
Hour and 11 for no. Sorry, that guy always comes in with the tenor. Saw some atmospheric condensation coming on the rocket there at when it went into transonic.
Vehicle is supersonic.
There's that call out that Falcon 9 is supersonic. This means the vehicle is currently going faster than the speed of sound.
Max Q.
Maximum dynamic pressure.
And
There's the
there's that
dynamic
call out
pressure
for
thing that
max
we were
Q.
talking about.
This
If you
means
tried
that
to
the vehicle is currently experiencing the greatest amount of external stresses as it ascends through the Earth's atmosphere.
And we saw a second ago in Kerbal what happens if you try to go faster. We should have a kerosene locks fight. I don't want to do that.
Back chill.
Okay, MVAC chill indicating that they're
And
priming
we
the
are
second
about 1
stage.
minute away from a series of events: MECO, Stage SEP, SES-1, and fairing separation. MECO, or main engine cutoff, is where all 9 of the Merlin 1D engines on the first stage shut down. Stage separation is when the first and second stages separate. SES-1, or second engine start 1, is where we light the Merlin
Santa
vacuum on
Barbara's
the
over there
second
behind
stage.
the clouds.
And fairing separation is when the 2 fairing halves separate and fall away from the second stage. Keep an eye out for these events, which will happen in rapid succession.
Yep, so this thing is flying due south out of Lompoc, so if there weren't clouds, you'd be able to see like all of Southern California right there. This is a shot looking up the second stage. That MVAC chill call indicated that they primed and thermally conditioned the engine. You don't want to try to dry fire a rocket, so they basically start trickling propellants into the engine.
Stage separation confirmed.
And so when they turn the engine on, it fires up right away. You don't want to just crank the motor. That's not good for it. It's not good for a car either, right? Like fairing sep, right?
Bearing
Now.
separation confirmed.
I missed it. Missed it by that much.
And there we heard those callouts for main engine cutoff, stage separation, SES-1, and fairing separation. We will be attempting to recover both fairing halves today using our recovery
Here's
vessel
a 28
NRC
months.
Quest. Both of the fairing halves flying on today's mission are
Lavi,
flight proven,
75.
with one half flying for the 5th
That
time
erector
and
does
the other its
transport,
6th.
Yeah, that's a.
And just as a reminder, on the left side of the screen is the Falcon 9 first stage, and on the right side you can see the second stage, which is carrying the Starlink satellites.
How do they hold stage 2 securely? So stage 2 has a structural ring attached to the back of the RP-1 tank. So the engine is actually mounted on the bottom of the RP-1 tank, right? And then around the ring here, which is like just this camera is actually mounted on said ring. There is it's called an aft skirt, and it's a strengthened
Currently,
piece of aluminum.
the first stage is on its
and
way
that's
back
what the second
to Earth
stage
towards our
rests
drone
on.
ship, Of Course I Still Love You, which is stationed in the Pacific Ocean.
The Merlin vacuum engine just basically hangs out. It's actually being pulled up because the first stage attaches to the second stage
which you see on the
above
right
the
side of your
attachment point
screen.
for the
Both
motor.
stages are following nominal trajectories.
That second stage is continuing its burn, which will last for another several minutes.
Might be Catalina Island down there. It's hard to see with the cloud cover. It would be, but yeah, it would be flying over Catalina Island and the other islands that are out there that I forget the name on. I'm totally blanking. Yeah, Jack, the fuel tank is way stronger. And that aft skirt, it's an aft
As I
structural
mentioned
piece.
earlier,
I'll show it
today's
to you
Starlink
after the
mission
launch.
marks SpaceX's
I'll show you what it
210th
looks like.
mission overall and 11th mission just this year.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you send it, Tessa. The Channel Islands,
Now,
there
with
you
the
go.
first stage on the left side of your screen, you can see a pair of those titanium grid fins measuring about
There's an
4
airplane.
feet by 5 feet.
You guys
Those
see
are
the plane?
the primary mechanism used to control the booster during its descent.
At least, I don't know, maybe that was an airplane. I couldn't tell. It looked like a plane. Could be a balloon. Sorry, if I'm not, I know. If you're
And it
judging me
looks
for
like
that joke, if
booster
I wasn't
has
going to
reached
make it, someone in
apogee and
chat
is now
was.
actually descending back towards Earth.
Be preemptive about it. Actually, yeah, that it could have been an airplane. This thing is flying way higher than any airplane, guys. Like way higher.
As a reminder, Starlink is a satellite internet constellation designed and manufactured by
Jabs, but that's
SpaceX
funny.
to provide high-speed, low-latency internet to people living in remote and rural locations around the globe.
Yeah, Aqualex, that's bananas. And the fact that Falcon 9 can do that and even land on the drone ship is absurd. I feel like Falcon 9 is doing what the Phantom Express was supposed to do at this point. Falcon 9 is doing what the space shuttle was intended to do. This
And
is how
just as a
often
reminder,
the shuttle
on
was
the
supposed
left
to
side
fly.
of your screen is the Falcon 9 first stage, which is coming back to Earth to perform its landing.
We never
And the
did
second
that.
stage with the Merlin vacuum engine visible is on the right.
The Merlin looks wobbly. Is it thin?
Both vehicles are still following nominal trajectories.
It's the artifacting, Jimmy, but there is some nozzle oscillations on the very end of it. Yeah, it does. It wiggles around a little bit. That's normal. It is partially artifacting, but you see right on the rim right there? It is moving around. You'll see it when the engine shuts down. It'll... It's supposed to do that. There's always some type of resonant vibration in there. As long as the oscillations don't get too much, right? If it gets too much and hits a resonant frequency, the nozzle can pop. We've seen that happen. Not on Falcon 9
Stage 1
before,
entry burn. Stage 1, which we also call the booster, has ignited engines 1, 5, and 9 to slow it down for atmospheric re-entry.
It's an engine bell and bells ring.
The first stage used to launch our
Good way to say
51
that,
Starlink
Nico.
satellites into space today is flying
Best
for
part.
its 9th time
Stage 1
today.
entry burn shutdown.
So right there,
Stage 1 FTS has saved.
right there, what that first stage was doing is firing its engines to slow itself down for when it gets into the lower parts of the atmosphere. Not only does that slow the stage down, it actually protects it. Believe it or not, Falcon 9 flying in its own column of gas is actually cooler than what would happen if it just kind of tried to plunge right into the atmosphere. It minimizes entry heating and actually protects Falcon 9. What I'm trying to tell you is that the hot gases coming out of the engines are the heat shield. That's the heat shield. Yeah, supersonic retropropulsion. Smart idea. Man, see, Jimmy, check this out. That right there is not the feed. The pressures being exerted on those grid fins are causing them to vibrate. Man, that's some hard cross range right there. The drone ship, you should find it. It should be under the left grid fin, usually. It might be behind the clouds, though. Yeah, that's a really wild entry angle. Yeah. Whoa, it's near land.
Terminal guidance.
Terminal guidance on stage 2, so it's gone inertial. That's normal.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Landing burn on the first stage
And
has
there's
started.
confirmation that the Stage 1 landing burn has started in preparation for touchdown on our drone ship. Of course, I still love you.
Okay, all right, we're a little off center. It'll compensate. It waits to the last second to compensate because that's when the
Stage
gimbal
1
has the most
landing
effective
deploy.
performance. Textbook.
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
So now you should see
And
the
there you
engines
heard
peak
and
out a
saw
little
that
bit.
Falcon 9 has successfully landed on
Yep.
our drone
Yep,
ship.
see?
Of course, I still love you in the
Peeking out a
Pacific
little bit,
Ocean.
and then you'll
This
see the
marks our
purge.
172nd
Purge down on the
overall
engines,
landing
see
of
the-
an
see the
orbital
vents?
class rocket, including Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy missions.
That was nice. Dude,
Nominal orbit insertion.
that thing really came in hard, man. Wow.
And if you heard that call out,
I've
we
never
had
seen it
nominal
come in at
orbital
that,
insertion
like,
of our Starlink
Steep
satellites.
of an angle. Usually with Falcon 9, they get Falcon 9 kind of over
And
the
with
drone ship
confirmation-
and then they burn. This thing came in kind of sideways and then
And with
plunged
confirmation
down
of
at the
successful
last
first
second.
stage landing
That's pretty
and second
hardcore,
engine
man.
cutoff, that wraps up our coverage for now. Be sure to
Dude, hold on. I got to see that again, man. That entry angle is absurd. Unless the camera is kind of... It's hard to tell with the clouds because I can't really see the horizon. But dude, the horizon's over the right grid fin in this shot. That thing is... That Falcon is flying like this. It's not coming down like this. It's going that way, which is pretty crazy. The grid fins are giving you enough effective pitch control that the booster's actually flying sideways. It's not flying, but it's not plunging to its death. It's falling with style, which is pretty dang cool. And also, there's an island near the drone ship. I've never seen land near the drone ships in the past. Do I work for NASA? Cap? No, I don't. I'm just a fan. I love this stuff, man. This is my favorite. Rockets are the best, dude. Channel Islands, yeah. Dude, it's windy. It looks like it's a little windy, judging by how much this is compensating, but money. You see how the rocket's kind of moving around a lot? Jeez. Yeah, there's some residual RP1 getting burned off there, and then the engines puke out a little extra LOX there. That's fine. That's normal. And then if you see these little vents right here on the sides, they hit the engines with helium. You don't want to keep liquid oxygen sitting inside of the plumbing, inside of the engine. That's like key to reusability. They had to do the same thing with the shuttle. They had to dry the engines out because, well, I don't have a really better way to say this. Liquid oxygen oxidizes things. And the rocket engines are made out of metal, and most metals don't like being oxidized. It'll rust. You don't want the motor to rust from the inside out. So what they do is there's a pneumatic system on Falcon 9, and they hit the engines. They purge the plumbing out with helium to make sure that it doesn't rust from the inside out. Even leaving the locks there even for a couple extra minutes can destroy a freaking rocket engine. Look how it tilts toward the drone ship to get close. That was a nuts landing, dudes. Yeah, that was crazy. Rusty pipes are no good. Nah, I don't like being oxidized either. That's that's fair. That's fair. Anyway, good launch. Good launch. Very good. Let's just go back and see that liftoff real quick. So I told you the freaking transporter erector. See, the fuel and oxidizer line is right there, and the TE purge happened, but there was still a little bit of residual in there, and it puked out, and then it caught on fire. Watch this. So when the rocket goes, watch right here on the transporter erector.
4, 3, 2, 1.
So the fuel line pops, the tag line pulls it back, and then it plops down here. It pukes out a bunch of liquid oxygen right there, and then the heat from the engines light it on fire. Dude, it did exactly what I said it was gonna do. Like, that doesn't happen all the time, dudes, but
And what the chamber pressures.
yeah, can you imagine? That's after they purged out the transporter erector. Can you imagine what would happen if they didn't purge it out? Fun fact, that's what happened on some early SpaceX missions before they put the purge system in there. The freaking launch pad lit on fire.
Three, 2, 1. Engines full power.
Yeah, watch.
And lift off
Discovery,
of
go and
Starlink.
throttle up.
Group
Sploosh.
2.5.
See?
Go Falcon, go
And then it
Starlink.
lit it right on fire. Unbelievable.
Vehicles pitching down.
Karis,
Discovery,
19-month
go and
resub.
throttle up.
Agent Smart, 26 months. I mean, Aqualex, if you sprayed the paint on the transporter erector with LOX, it'll catch on fire. LOX can make any... If you spray liquid oxygen on anything and then
Discovery,
introduce
go
it
and
to
throttle
heat, it'll light on fire. It doesn't... Liquid oxygen makes stuff blow up good. Savvy, 82 months. Ask Starship what happened when you don't clear the lines. Yeah, right? How many times was this core used? This was the 9th flight of this booster? I mean, Oglex, it's possible that, well, the fuel line is right next to it, so maybe there was some residual fuel, and we can't kind of see it because of the lens flare, but...
9, 8.
It wanted to
7,
Delta 4. Yeah, that's
6,
right.
5, 4,
Sound suppressors
3,
are on.
2, 1.
I mean, there's 2 lines there, so they could have just sprayed it out, right?
Group 2.
So it hits the plate right there, and then look, it sprayed it all. That's definitely liquid oxygen, dude. Oh my goodness. Booster 7 is frosty. Yeah, I think there's both coming out of that, dude. Did you see the flames come off of it? You could even see it in this picture from far away behind the liftoff.
Vehicles pitching down.
How many flights did they plan to get out of a given booster? Dwarshak, right now Falcon 9 boosters are rated up to 15 flights, but SpaceX has said they could get, it's plausible that they could get as many as 100 missions out of a Falcon 9 first stage. However, that's theoretical. That's not backed up by any numbers. That Elon's theorized that they could probably do it that way. But the thing about engineering is that, yeah, engineering without analysis means nothing. It's not what you know, Jake. It's what you can prove. So basically what SpaceX does is after every 5 missions, they move an incremental 5 mission right now. So they said that, you know, initially, like back a couple of years ago when they first really started reusing these things, right? They said, oh, you know, we'll evaluate what the booster looks like after 5 missions, right? Actually, it started with 1 mission, to be honest, just to prove that they could reuse a stage, right? Savvy, what's that? Oh, they released the system requirements. Perfect. Yep, I'll check that in a moment. And then it was 5 missions, right? So after 5 missions, they'll basically check over the booster and make sure it's good to go. And then it was 10 missions. And now we're at 15. And when a booster gets to 15, what SpaceX will do is, like, I guarantee you, if they've done this with one of the Falcon 9s that hit 15 missions, there's a couple of them. They probably took the whole damn thing apart just to inspect it. Take the whole damn thing apart, inspect it, evaluate, and see if, like, did the parts wear out? Are the welds still good on the tanks? And then go from there. The fact that there is a booster that's been flown 15 times is frankly kind of absurd to me. System requirements for KSP-2 just dropped. Yeah, I've been told that. Oh, what a shot. That's cool, man. Maybe a spin prime today. System requirements for KSP-2 just dropped. Really? All right, we'll check it out. All right, well, let's take a look. You guys wanted to see those dang old system requirements. Let's see. All right, let's take a look. Sorry, there were a couple of questions in there. It looks like your current CPU meets suggested specs. They only say you should have 2.7 gigs. Yeah, I think we're good on that front. By the way, look at how steep of an angle of attack that stage is pulling on the onboard before landing. Right? Yeah, Aqualex, it's crazy, man. Yeah. Yeah, that thing came in real steep. They flew that thing like how we flew MLV back in Kerbal. Barak, what's that next question? Are we coming up to or already exceeding a Falcon 9 booster having flown more than an orbiter? Okay, so before we jump into system specs, Barak, the orbiter with the most missions is Discovery, 39 missions. But see, I don't know if you should compare Falcon 9 first stage reuse to the Space Shuttle. The Space Shuttle's technically a smart reuse second stage. You know how, like, ULA wants to jettison the engines off the first stage? The shuttle is literally just smart reuse applied to a second stage with a payload. So you take the payload fairing, second stage propulsion, and crew tank and combine them into one thing, and the external tank goes, right? Your second stage tankage gets ejected, right? So I'm not sure if you should compare first to second stage. However, with that being said, the boosters for the shuttle, for the SRBs were reusable during the shuttle program. And some casings flew 20, 30 times. I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head. So, I don't know. It'd probably be better to compare it to the boosters. But either way, Falcon 9 is pretty rapidly approaching, like Space Shuttle levels of reuse. Because Falcon 9's partially reusable. Space Shuttle's partially reusable, right? Barak, what still blows my mind about this is that they were trying to do what Falcon 9 is doing with the shuttle. They were trying to do that, which is just bananas to me. I'd call the shuttle smart reuse SSTO with solid boosters. Yeah, right? Yeah, Aqualex, it's almost like the technology from the Space Shuttle main engines could have been applied in other places to make SSTOs. SDS also got a very thorough overhaul between missions over the course of a year at more times, right? That was the problem with the shuttle program, Havocs. Yeah, that was one of the things that they weren't by the end of the shuttle program, they were just trying to make it safe. They were just trying to make it so nothing bad happens. And that's kind of what happened after Challenger. And this is the unfortunate part about the shuttle program, dude. They're trying to make it safer. And trying to make it safer doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to hurt people. I would make the argument, and it's easy for me to do because I have no skin in the game. So keep in mind, I'm just an armchair rocket scientist, and this is very much my opinion on this. So, and your boy can be wrong. It's fine. Like, I can be wrong about this, but I would contend to say that them trying to make the shuttle safer actually made it less reliable. And yeah, infrequency of flight with the shuttle, so basically not flying it like Falcon 9 actually ended up making it a little more dangerous. And, you know, I'm not the only one that has that opinion about things. The director of the director of Starship launch operations, I think director of launch operations for SpaceX, the VP of launch operations is his name. It's a guy by the name of Bill Gerstenmaier. He said the same thing, and he was like a chief engineer on the shuttle program. Yeah. Like he worked on the shuttle program for like 40 years. He said the same thing. In fact, he even not even implied, he outright said that them taking apart the space shuttle every time and putting it back together actually made the engines less reliable. Think about like a car engine, a car motor. Think about how ridiculous it would be if you drove to the grocery store, came back, and then had to rebuild the engine. Like, even if you were like a master mechanic and you did that every single time, right? Well, taking the thing apart and putting it back together all those freaking times is you'll eventually make a small mistake, and you know, like maybe you didn't seat a bearing right, or maybe you didn't get your crankshaft tolerance correctly, right? Like eventually, if you just do it every freaking day, you'll eventually make a mistake somewhere, right? Sometimes just leave it in one piece. Teardown is a chance to screw up torquing on something. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's more to it than that. If you really thought what Wayne Hale said, a pretty much recurring theme in the shuttle was flying it so fast in the beginning that nobody wanted to take the time to fix all the lingering problems. Yeah, Lavi, I mean, what it boils down to is that the shuttle program wasn't, I'm not going to say it wasn't managed very well, because that would be very, very presumptuous of me. I have no idea what it takes to manage a shuttle program. I have no clue. So, once again, EJ's an armchair scientist in this regard. Like, I fully acknowledge that. Literally introducing human error into the equation. Bingo. Yeah. Did I catch this? A lot of messages in chat. I'm trying to keep up, fellas. But yeah, the shuttle needed a lot of downtime because they basically rebuilt it every single time. And the crazy part is that they rebuilt that whole freaking orbiter in 3 months. They got it down to a 3-month turnaround, which is absurd considering how complicated it is. That's really ridiculous. The fact that they could do that in 3 months is just bananas to me. If it makes you feel better, that is what my cousin is trying to do with the Air Force. Make a new aerospike engine that will power an SSTO. Yama, I wish your cousin the absolute most possible success that he or she could achieve. Please, we need this for science. Yeah, Lavi, for what it's worth, I read Wayne Hale's blog a lot. I learn a lot from that. Or the constant retorquing of bolts that can cause metal fatigue. That's right, Darius. Yeah, anybody that works on cars know that a car engine will become way less reliable if you rebuild it every time. Now, here's the thing. A rocket engine is not a car engine, okay? The rocket engines are way more precision engineered because they have to be. They absolutely have to be. You get your torque spec off by just a little bit, the thing can blow up. Like catastrophic failure. But, you know, the whole point of the shuttle in the end was to try and make going to space routine, right? It was trying to be like an airplane that flies into space. Or a space plane, I should say. So, yeah, I mean, I think what it kind of boils down to is like trying to take something that's supposed to be like an airplane and trying to test it like a rocket is probably not the best way to do things. But once again, I have the exact benefit of hindsight there, and this is why I'm writing off my own opinion in this regard. The X-33 engine facilities, Aqualux, are used for something else. It was made at the Skunk Works, so they're using that space for something. And then the test stand is used for something else, and I don't know what it is. Dumb question, but why do dragsters not just improve but require rebuilds every time they run? Are those specifically designed to be reliable through rebuilds? No, they don't need to be reliable through rebuilds, someone. You can squeeze more power out of the engine if you just send it maximum. Like, they literally did the same thing with SLS. They took shuttle engines, rated them to 109% because you're not worried about performance. It doesn't matter if you melt a component inside of the engine after 8 minutes of firing, right? There's acceptable wear and tear on the motor. Engine chill on booster 7. Ooh. Yeah, there you go, Rocket Guy. Yeah. But anyway, we'll peep those Kerbal specs in a second, and so let's call this SpaceX Booster 7 testing. Let's keep in the Sci and Tech category, and we'll go from there. There's this too. I'm getting to it, buddy. KSP Discord is literally going insane about how high the minimum specifications are. I love the slow-mo of a drag racing tire. It's the weirdest thing. Yeah, how the tire kind of